Stuart Revercomb has lived in Roanoke since the age of 9 and is a graduate of North Cross School and the University of Virginia. He spent 14 years in the corporate world working for Revcar Fasteners, a family business based in Roanoke, before answering a call to the full-time work of the church. That call has manifested itself in a number of ways. As the Director of Operations for the Roanoke Rescue Mission, as a Christian educator in the Presbyterian Church, an online newspaper columnist for the Roanoke Times, and in print for Main Street newspapers. In addition to being a published book author, Revercomb, a former candidate for Roanoke City Council, is now publisher of the Roanoke Star-Sentinel, a weekly community newspaper serving the Roanoke Valley since November 2007. Stuart Revercomb, welcome to the interview.
Thank you, Gene. Pleasure to be here.
Need to do full disclosure. I do some writing for the Star-Sentinel. We need to bring that up at the beginning, get that out of the way.
So these will be some easy questions, I guess.
We'll see. First of all, just, talk about starting a weekly paper, Stuart. Was that something that was, a weekly newspaper, was that something that was on your radar screen for a long time, or did happenstance over the last couple of years just kind of make you fall into it?
It's kind of interesting. In the church work I did over the years, one of the questions I often had was, how do I know what I'm supposed to do in life? I feel various callings and different things that I might be able to do. What should I do? So it's funny I get this question. A lot of us are asking
that question.
Right, a lot of us do, and it's funny it comes back at me. But I think I kind of followed my own advice, which was often that in my opinion as a Christian, God tends to put things in front of you, which you can either sidestep or you can walk into and immerse yourself in. Mm-hmm. And in this case, with the newspaper, it just kept coming back in front of me till it reached a point really that I knew it was the thing I needed to do. Mm-hmm. The circumstances of it was, of course, was that Main Street Newspapers was originally going to start this paper. Right. And Lawson Keppel, who was the editor at the time, was the one who undertook the project originally. Mm-hmm. That was derailed about a month before it was going to launch because they purchased another set of newspapers down in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And the project was really killed, not so much back burner, but just put off the slate. And as things unfolded, Lawson wound up leaving Main Street Newspaper sometime later. And in the interview process he approached me for some advice on another company, a company I used to work for, a family business. Mm-hmm. And I told Lawson at the time that he was the editor that we could never really find for this paper. Mm-hmm. And one thing led to another, and in November 2007, the Star-Sentinel was launched.
And, of course, Main Street newspapers locally, they do the Salem paper, Cave Spring, Vinton paper, some other papers.
Right. Mm-hmm. In fact, the conversation that launched that initial conversation about developing the Roanoke Star-Sentinel had to do with a conversation by a guy named Reinhold Wirth and a fellow named Ben Tabor on the coast of Portugal, in which Tabor turned to Wirth, who had started with a keg of bolts in a garage at age 19 in 1946, somewhere in there after World War II. He's in Germany. Right. And built literally an empire, 27,000 employee company with $4 billion in sales. And he turned to Tabor and he said, "Tabor, I'm a failure." And Tabor had asked him, "Well, gee whiz, Reinhold, I don't know. How are you a failure?" And he said, "In my biggest market, which is the United States of America, we're only doing about 12% of sales, somewhere in there. It's like 70 million at the time, which sounds like a lot, but it's not with $4 billion. Right. I took that conversation when I was writing for Main Street Newspapers and related it to Lawson and said, "Lawson, it's funny, you own 7 papers, or Main Street does, all throughout Southwest Virginia, but in your largest market, you really don't do anything. Right. You don't have one." And that's
Roanoke City.
And Roanoke City, Roanoke County, and the Roanoke Valley. Of course, I do have the Cave Spring connection, which covers a small part of the county. But and that's how, kind of using that parallel of that conversation on this, that the whole thing sort of began. So it was interesting.
Yeah, I was just wondering how you were involved for many years with a family business, then with the Rescue Mission. Right. With a local church, and where does the Star-Sentinel fit with that career track? Do you see this as a mission of sorts, or a logical step?
It is a bit of a calling, I think, in that way, and as the concept of the paper came together, which developed, of course, into a business model for it, I felt like we really needed to try to redefine news. That one thing Roanoke missed is a wonderfully sized community. So often you hear, Roanoke's got this great balance, 350,000 people or so in the valley, and you have all the cultural and wonderful amenities that are here, and you have the natural environment that's so accessible around it, and we have a wonderful small town feel at the same time while you have all those things. We don't have the negatives of the traffic and the urbanization and everything, but one thing we seemed not to have was a local print media source that was focused more on lifting up the positive, people, places, and events that happen in Roanoke. I'm not going to kick any other media sources, but
sure.
Maybe they're just more traditional. Maybe they've fallen more into the negative aspect of what is news. We don't cover the drug bust and the fires and the traffic accidents, but we do try to cover a lot of the great things that are happening in Roanoke. And the response to that has been unbelievable. I mean, I think you've heard me say, if love paid the bills, we could have retired a long time ago. And so that's been wonderful. And I think people were really ready for what is read more like a weekly magazine, of course, than a daily.
Right.
And that just is focused on the positive things that are happening. Now, we'll cover some tough news, and we've played some roles in
City Council news.
City Council news and some tough issues.
Right.
And we get into those when we feel it's appropriate, and of course when we can perhaps offer an alternative perspective that might not be reported elsewhere. And so we try to focus on that as well.
You sort of took away my next question, but the niche for a weekly paper like the Roanoke Star-Sentinel, is it a different niche than a daily? Where you're not having to cover the daily goings-on and the daily mischief and mayhem?
It's an entirely different thing, really, and it is. It's more like a weekly magazine with a daily, and of course a lot of the big dailies are struggling. We're just an entirely different animal. They are battling more the very immediate presence of the internet, where they're trying to remain timely. So much of what you do read in the dailies are news coverage and stories, whether it's local, state, or federal, that have probably been seen already on Yahoo or Google. Not that a daily can't find its role in unpacking and digging further into issues. Of course they can, but I think there's far more tendency now to read a daily, scan the headlines that maybe you haven't seen before, pick up an article or two, and then into the recycle bin it goes. There's another one coming tomorrow.
Right.
Whereas this is read entirely differently. It tends to sit on coffee tables and bedside stands and doctors' offices. And
these get passed around a little bit more, too.
Quite a bit more.
Yeah.
They give us, for weekly papers, the average is supposed to be 4.5 readers per issue, and I think it's something like 2.7 for the daily. So.
It's interesting that in Virginia, I saw a survey maybe about a year and a half ago or so, where daily readership, the readership of daily papers is dwindling. The only papers that are growing in Virginia have been weekly papers.
That's correct. And I've said before, if we do our job well, it won't surprise me if sometime down the road, whether it's 10 or 20 years, you'll probably see a lot of the dailies, and not only in Virginia but elsewhere, going down much like the Detroit Free Press did, to either a biweekly or a weekly product
with internet support,
with a very strong online presence.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're striving to be. I think we've got a great weekly product that is growing. We're only just over 2.5 years into it, and the response has been great. And I think we're getting better and better at the coverage we do and the perspective pieces we offer. And our online presence, newsroanoke.com, is really flying.
I wanted to ask you about that. Are you getting good input on the website side?
We really do. It's been amazing. Newsroanoke.com. We have all of our stories and news are presented there. All the perspective pieces that our columnists do are all there. Almost every single article that's in the paper goes onto the online site. If it doesn't make it into the active newsroanoke.com, there's a link you click on. You can pull up the whole paper and turn pages individually.
Right.
And that is really flourishing. The traffic is doubling now on newsroanoke.com about every 6 to 8 weeks. So it's really it's growing radically.
Your favorite types of stories? What do you like to see in the paper? What's your favorite type of story?
This is a great question to get from Eugene, because being a news director like you are, and then we of course have a features editor, Cheryl Hodges, who does a great job for us. And then I do, as you know, a lot of the perspective pieces, which are the columnists.
Right.
We get responses across the board. We get so many emails. We almost have to hire somebody to handle emails and phone calls about the different things that people like in the paper. But I think the perspective section is leading the way, probably because the 12 writers that contribute to that are so varied in their backgrounds and their perspectives.
Right.
And I think they connect a lot. But that being said, the features that you also contribute to as well, and the news also gets a lot of responses. So personally, I drift to the perspective side, but I'm one opinion, of course.
Real quickly, how much is input from the community vital as a lifeblood for a weekly magazine? Ideas for stories and submissions, things like that.
Well, that's the word, vital. It absolutely is vital. The idea is, I said early on, from a personal perspective, this paper cannot be about me. It's not about even all of the people that work there. And we have quite a few contributors, as you know, and I mentioned the perspective writers. But it really is a reflection of the community. And the input we get is what drives us. And we get a fair amount of input. Sometimes we ask for it, sometimes we don't. But we have to respond to that. You'd like to think as a publisher that you own this newspaper, but you really don't. It is a community trust in the end, and maybe especially a weekly because of the nature of what we report on.
Okay. I'll have to leave it there. Stuart Revercomb, publisher of the Roanoke Star-Sentinel. Thanks for coming on the interview.
Thank you, Gene.
Thanks. And this is The Interview. I'm Gene Marrano. We'll be right back.